Welcome, friends, to another episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. My name is Mark. I'm the owner here at Creative Occasions, and it's a pleasure to welcome you back to my workroom. Do you have those people in your life who inspire you, people that professionally or personally you follow because you gain so much from them? I have several people professionally that I follow and that really are sources of inspiration for me. And one of those in particular is Hitomi Gilliam. Amazing designer, incredibly talented, and one of the kindest, sweetest spirits I've ever met. Just so nice, and I've had the pleasure of doing a personal hands-on class under her tutelage. So this design is straight up Hitomi inspiration. She has done a similar design on one of her videos, and I thought, I'm going to try my hand at that and see how that works out. I've had so much fun prepping for it, and I want to show you how to do it. The mechanic and the vessel that's going to hold the flowers is a very small one. It's this little water tube. These are clear plastic tubes. We'll get these, sometimes they'll come on flowers when they come in and they're processed to keep them fresh and alive. You can buy them wholesale. And what we're going to do with that little tube is take one of these U-glue dashes, which I've cut in half because you really don't need a lot of this product. And I'm going to just make sure that they're nice and attached there. I'm going to peel off the backing. Shouldn't have trimmed my nails. There we go. And I'm going to take just a regular bamboo skewer and I'm going to attach it to that U-glue dash. And the way that I'm going to attach it is just a little bit off to one side so that it's holding it in place nice and firm, but yet there's still a little bit of that tab that's available for us to use for adhesion. And what we're going to do in this case is we're going to use raffia to just wrap the tube to kind of disguise it so that it looks a little more organic and a little more natural. And I'm going to take the raffia and I'm just going to lay it beside the bamboo skewer and attach it to that little bit of the U-glue dash that's showing there. And then we're just going to basically wrap around this. I did find when I was working on this that sometimes the raffia is in short strips. So before I started wrapping, I actually tied 2 or 3 pieces together so that I wouldn't have to stop in the middle of it and do that. Just keep going. I kind of don't mind that little knot showing there. And then we're going to get down to the point where that other little U-glue dash is. And we're just going to take the raffia, going to spin it around the bamboo like that, pull it down and tight. That's the part where the sticky is, so it's going to be nice and secure there. We're going to do that a couple of times, just almost like creating a knot. And then we're going to come back around and I'm going to cut that little piece of raffia off. Use another half of a U-glue dash. I'm going to attach it there so that this whole thing is going to be nice and secure. Now, once we've got as many of these as you think you need for your design, I think I did about a dozen of these, you can actually drill holes in a 1x board, something that would sit nice and flat. There are all sorts of applications I'm sure that you could think of to use for this. I decided to use a piece of found tree limb, and let me show you how that looks. So this is what we're going to be using as the vessel for the arrangement. Isn't that cool? So basically all I did was just take the number of these that I wanted, drilled holes in the branch so that they're spaced along. And obviously once they're in the branch, there's still some flexibility to them when they're alone. So what I did to add additional stability to that is just worked some dried birch branches through them, around them, over them, and created like an armature. You've seen us do armatures before, and used our friend the bind wire in little pieces to just kind of bind those in place. When we're binding, the binding goes all the way around the test tube and the branch so that it's nice and secure together. Okay, so we've got this nice, secure mechanic that's going to be set up as an interesting vessel for our arrangement. Take a little squeeze bottle like this. You want to fill up these little tubes with some water so that they're all ready for fresh flowers. And obviously based on the amount of water that you're going to have available in a design like this is more event work. This is more something that's appropriate to for short term, not for something that's long term. So this is a great opportunity really to use stuff that you might be able to glean in your yard, things that you could find at home, little short snips of daffodils at this time of year, or little branches of azaleas or rhododendrons. I actually happen to have this Jacob's Ladder plant. That's a wonderful plant growing at home. I'll show you a long stem of it. It comes in sort of like this. You'll see how it gets its name, I think. There we go. So the leaves come up and go off from the side. So it's very easy to create these sections, and these sections are the perfect size to drop in these water tubes. And you can see as I'm working on this, this is really pretty stable. I don't think this is going anywhere. So I'm going to section some more of these. We'll get a little basis of some greenery in there. This is such a beautiful green, and I love the variegated stripe on it too. Great for this time of year. All right, so now let's work in some flowers. I wanted to find some flowers that would have some linear movement to kind of follow the shape of those birch branches. I noticed when I was looking in the cooler today that this stalk almost seems as though it has kind of taken on that shape. So I'm going to try to get some of those in those test tubes that are out here on the side, so that we can have a little bit more of a linear kind of movement with those. That one did a great job. This one is misbehaving. Let's see if we can. You can actually, because these are warm and they're a little pliable, you can actually work them under the branches. So that will help kind of create the flow and keep them in sort of the movement that you want them to go in. And basically we're just going to work some flowers in this across this piece. I don't want to break that stem. I just want it to be flexible. I noticed I went for purples again. I don't know what's up with that, if it's a thing or what. There we go. All right. Alstroemeria is going to be a great flower for that because A, it's going to have some filling capacity. It's going to be able to fill in some space for us, but it's also a great color. It holds up well. So in this scenario where we don't have a ton of water, it's going to be something that's going to be our friend for sure. You are going to have to exercise some caution about how many things you can get in these little water tubes, because literally you've got like a 1/2 inch diameter of space to work in here. Sometimes these arrangements feel like speed dating, you know? How fast can we get this together? And literally this is something that you could play with for a while, should you choose to, depending on the types of the materials you wanted to use, the colors, all those things as you're putting it together. Now, before we get too much further gone on that, I do want a little more greenery in it. So I've got this Italian ruscus, and Italian ruscus is very hardy. It holds up incredibly well. It works great without a water source. So that's why we're going to use it in this scenario. And basically what I'm going to do is just kind of work it into that armature of the birch branches that we have and let it kind of play there among those branches. Force of habit. Do you notice that I'm actually cutting a fresh cut on the stem of the Italian ruscus because I want to be sure it takes up water? All right, now let's pop in a few more flowers. I've got these beautiful anemones that are from the Blue Ridge Flower Exchange, a great resource for local grown flowers here in our area. Now, if this were going on a table, I would want to be sure that I have, especially with a flower like a face, with a face like this, I would want to be sure that I'm making the faces go in different directions so that not only the people on that side of the table are getting to enjoy the beauty of these anemones. They're for everybody. So I want to make sure that that happens. Pop in a couple of daisies because they too have a nice long life. This is a great kind of lavender shade with that. If you guys are enjoying the videos, and I certainly appreciate more than you know the fact that you take your time to watch them, be sure and like it as you're watching. Be sure and subscribe. We would love to have you back often. And hit that little bell icon at the bottom so that you'll be notified when we have new episodes that go up on our YouTube channel. Be great to have you along for that. Now, these are chunky little stems, so I'm not sure on these ranunculus how much I'm going to get in there. I did just do a little trim on that, so I'm hoping that slimming that down is going to help a little bit with getting him in place. Yeah. You really can play a lot with this. You can build a little more height to it. You can keep it all very low and linear. Add more greenery. Different types of greenery would certainly be appropriate as well. English ivy would be beautiful in this. Plumosa or something that's like asparagus fern that's kind of wispy and feathery would also be great. But have these ranunculus. They're short and chunky and I want them in there. So the beauty of this too is that everything that's in this is reusable. This entire structure can be reused. All you have to do is rinse out those water tubes, clean them for the next time that you want to use them. You could even use this structure on a different base if you wanted and drill in a 1x board as your base foundation. All sorts of cool things that could be done with it. Also imagine how you could wrap the tubes differently. You know, instead of wrapping them with raffia for a natural look, imagine wrapping them with ribbon or wrapping them with yarn or, you know, any number of things that could add a different level of color, another level of texture to the arrangement. All right. I probably could play with that for a while longer, but due to time, I want to get on to the bourbon. I'm gonna call time on this one and stop here and say that I hope you've enjoyed this very kind of interesting linear elevated centerpiece that would be great for a tablescape, for entertaining, a lot of fun for springtime. Sorry, Jason. I don't know how you want to edit this in, but I need this bear grass in here. All right, a little more movement. There we go. And again, because the bear grass doesn't need a water source, you can just kind of tuck it in as well. Let it kind of flow out and around. All right. So now the bear grass has given us just another little level of movement, a little more wispiness, a little more airiness about the arrangement. I think I'm going to be happy with that now so I can taste bourbon. All right, the bourbon that we're tasting today is called Bridge and Main American Wheat Bourbon. It's actually from the Cleveland Distillery in Cleveland, Ohio. It has 45% wheat in it, so I'm anticipating that it's going to be a bit sweeter. because of that wheat element. And I've been doing some reading. My niece gave me a book about the history of bourbon and bourbon across the country. And one of the things I really hadn't considered was the different geographical influences on bourbon. So when bourbon's distilled in Kentucky, the geography, the limestone deposits there are all different than they would be in Cleveland, Ohio, for instance. So the bourbon that's distilled there is going to, have different influences, which I think is kind of interesting. So great color, by the way. This is a beautiful sort of caramel color. Yeah, I do like that sound. Let's see what this is like. I have not tried this one before, so this is a new to me bourbon. Jason. Good color in the glass. Definitely some vanilla, a little sweeter element to it. Some apple maybe. Oh, that's very good. Definitely an apple essence, a little bit sweeter. And of course, as I mentioned with the wheat, you would expect a sweeter taste to this. Maybe some kind of oakish notes, I guess, from the aging process. Definitely that apple and some vanilla. A nice clean finish. It doesn't, not overly strong and powerful. It doesn't, not a lot of heat associated with it. It's really pretty good. Jason, I think you'll like that one. This one definitely finishes a little bit more mid to back palate for me. And that happens to be the case typically for my palate with sweeter bourbons. So, Bridge and Main American Wheat Bourbon from the Cleveland Distillery in Cleveland, Ohio. And I guess that about wraps up this episode, y'all. I hope that you've enjoyed my interpretation of Hitomi Gilliam's linear arrangement. Be sure and try Bridge and Main. And until next time, cheers to you and to flowers every day. Thanks for joining us.